So it looks like J.K. Rowling has completely destroyed the woke narrative on Twitter because she caught them in a lie. J.K. Rowling, like many other people, have caught the trans community in a lie, or at least the activism on Twitter portion in a lie. As you guys are aware, Twitter has a lot of bots, okay? Twitter is a bot heavy, centralized area that they use those bots to push the woke ideology. They do it all the time. When they were pushing the poke, you saw a ton of bot accounts tweeting the exact same sentence and paragraph over and over and over and over again, and they were busted many times, but they are also using these bots to push the transgender ideology and to try to make people seem or think sympathy towards the trans community, or at least the activism portion of that community. Now, what am I talking about? Well, this article from Bounding Into Comics goes into it where it says Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling mocks alleged parents who use their supposedly mentally ill children to accuse her of transphobia. We're going to get into the article, guys, but of course, before we do, just consider giving this video a like so you can push us out into the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing because we're almost hitting 18,000 subscribers. It says Harry Potter and author J.K. Rowling recently took to Twitter to mock a number of alleged parents who were using their supposedly mentally ill children to accuse her of transphobia due to her lukewarm criticism of transgender ideology. Rowling shared 4 screenshots from Twitter, including one that Twitter labeled automated, that told stories using their alleged mentally ill children to accuse her of transphobia. The automated user wrote, "My trans daughter used to love your books, but after you became a bigot, she cried and asked me, 'Daddy, why do people hate those who are different from them?' I don't know, baby. I don't know." Yeah, that never happened. That never happened. You know what's funny? We see this happen all the time. Why do people try to talk about what they want to talk about through their children? They do it all the time. They make it seem as if the child said it. And this happens in the LGBTQ community a lot, especially with teachers, right? You see a lot of videos on TikTok with teachers, and they'll post like, "Oh yeah, my student today asked me about my pronouns and they were so excited to learn, and they called me mixed for the first time. And I had to cheer, I had to cry. I was so excited." That never happened. That never happened. I refuse to believe that happened, and I guarantee you it did not. I would bet money on it. These adults are seeking validation from kids, and they're also using kids to further look like they're validated in the public eye. It's ridiculous. It says another tweet that now appears to have been deleted from SSE Pickle said, "J.K. Rowling, I have a 12-year-old trans daughter, and she cries every time she sees one of your transphobic posts. She is a huge fan of Harry Potter, but seeing the author of her favorite book series being so bigoted is heartbreaking. Please, J.K., make my daughter happy again." A third one from Marco Wote 2 reads the exact same thing as the first one. Finally, Rowling shared a fourth one from Soy3, who tweeted the same thing as the second one. So you have 4 posts that are saying the same thing twice over from the first 2. There are repeated posts, and I guarantee you those are not the only ones. She obviously only used those 4 in her tweet, but she completely massacres them in the next one. It's amazing. Check this out. So she says, Rowling shared all 4 of those tweets and wrote, "My 1-year-old son just looked up from Twitter and said, 'Mummy, why have you made these very real children sad with your heinous yet unevidenced bigotry?' Then he ran upstairs and burned all of his Harry Potter books. I was so damned ashamed, I almost forgot that the kid was imaginary." I love it. I love it because that's exactly what's happening. These are imaginary kids. This is imaginary people. These are not real people. They're bots. A lot of the discussion that happens on Twitter, and a lot of the psychopaths that seem to comment or make comments on Twitter, they're bots. They're all bots for whatever corporation is trying to push whatever message they're trying to push. They're not real people. A lot of them are not like that. Obviously, there is tons of crazy people out there, and you definitely know who's crazy on Twitter and who's not. But ultimately, a lot of them are bots, and a lot of the bots are the ones that are pushing the message. Those bots are owned by somebody or something, and they're pushing that message. That's why they exist. And you can catch them pretty easily because when you start realizing that all of these comments are the exact same comments, word for word, copy and paste it. So it says the accusations against Rowling publicly began when Rowling chose to like a tweet in support of Maya Forstarter, who was fired from her job for stating that men cannot turn into women. After liking a tweet in support of Forstarter, Rowling publicly backed her in December of 2019, writing, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real? I stand with Maya. This is not a drill." And you know what? That entire statement is not bad at all. That's the hilarious thing. Like, I know the crazy woke, they love to just go nuts at any kind of opposition, if you oppose them in any way, they lose their mind. That's just the facts. But the thing is, a statement like this is not a crazy statement. This is pretty much as fence sitting as you could possibly get. But she did ultimately pick a side towards the end of the tweet, and that's what drove them crazy. You cannot pick a side. You have to pick their side. It is their side only. Otherwise, you are canceled. It says in June 2020, Rowling would elaborate on her thoughts about sex and gender issues and came out in support of bodily mutilation. I want to be very clear here. I know transition will be a solution for some gender dysphoric people, although I'm also aware through extensive research that studies have consistently shown that between 60 and 90% of gender dysphoric teens will grow out of their dysphoria. However, she couches her support of bodily mutilation by having put limits on it, and the removal of those limits is one of the main reasons why she has taken the stance she has. The current explosion of trans activism is urging a removal of almost all robust systems through which candidates for sex reassignment were once required to pass. A man who intends to have no surgery and take no hormones may now secure himself a gender recognition certificate and be a woman in the sight of the law. Many people aren't aware of this. She also claims this transgender ideological movement is misogynistic, which I agree it is too. It is inherently misogynistic that a man can pretend to be a woman and enjoy women's spaces and enjoy taking pretty much everything away from women and try to pretend like they are a part of the same crowd. It says, I've read all the arguments about femaleness not residing in the sex body and the assertions that biological women don't have common experiences, and I find them too deeply misogynistic and regressive. It definitely is regressive. It's also clear that one of the objectives of denying the importance of sex is to erode what some seem to see as the cruelly segregationist idea of women having their own biological realities, or, just as threatening, unifying realities that make them a cohesive political class. But as many women have said before me, woman is not a costume. Woman is not an idea in a man's head. Well, apparently it is to Dylan Mulvaney. Woman is not a pink brain, a liking for Jimmy Coates, or any other sexist ideas now somehow touted as progressive. She also relayed moreover the inclusive language that calls female people menstruators and people with vulvas. It's fucking disgusting. Strikes many women as dehumanizing and demeaning. I understand why trans activists consider this language to be appropriate and kind, but for those of us who would have had a degrading slur spat at us by violent men, it's not neutral, it's hostile and alienating. And I agree with that. Like, whenever they started doing those terms, like birthing people, I think that's one of the most insulting things that you can say. It has to be like, to call a woman a birthing person or people who menstruate. I mean, it is god awful to say something like that. You are literally reducing people down to biological functions, and it's nasty. It really is. I don't really use words like misogyny, but if I were to use misogyny or misogynistic, I would apply to this. I would 100% apply to this. This is real misogyny. This is truly being misogynistic by the word definition. Men pretending to be women is one of the biggest issues, in my opinion, that women face currently today. And unfortunately, a lot of women are perfectly fine with it, which is why it's even allowed to happen in the first place. It says, if Rowling hadn't already made it clear that she believes people can indeed transition from male to female and female to male, she wrote, I believe the majority of trans-identified people not only possess zero threat to others, but are vulnerable for all the reasons I've outlined. Trans people need and deserve protection. Like women, they're most likely to be killed by sexual partners. Trans women who work in the sex industry, particularly trans women of color, are at particular risk. Like every other domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor I know, I feel nothing but empathy and solidarity with trans women who've been abused by men. So again, guys, the funny thing about this whole situation with J.K. Rowling, what I agree with a lot of what she says. I don't agree with her ultra feminism takes, because again, those ultra feminism takes are the reason why, J.K. Rowling, you are in this boat to begin with. You are in this boat because your ways have basically allowed this to seep into your little community of feminists, and now you have men in dresses pretending to be women taking your spaces, and you're complaining about it. But in the same breath, you want to make sure you come off as progressive, because you probably truly are progressive, and you want to say that they need saving, they need a safe space, they need all this other stuff on top of that. But listen, you can't have both ways. So either they're women or they're not. If you think they're women, then you need to allow them in your space. It's plain as day, because this issue is not happening to men. It is only happening to women, and that's because women are allowing it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.